let's kick this party off, right? I mean, today we're celebrating the opening ceremony for the Dominion Varsity Cup. I want to thank you, everybody, for joining. I want to thank you, John, for setting this up. I want to thank you, Mr. Anandasangaree and Mr. Omar Haredai for joining us, and all the other guests that have taken time out of their busy schedules to contribute to our event here today. Dominion's goals, and if you guys don't mind, I have some materials written down. It always helps me keep focused when I'm talking. Otherwise, I have a tendency of going in many directions. So Dominion's goals have been clear. Dominion's goals have been clear since the beginning: to establish a network, an ecosystem of mock trials to give students access to legal advocacy and legal education before they go into their undergraduate degrees or their law school experiences. And John Wu has really been a pioneer in establishing this organization in Canada. And one second, I'm having a slight bit of, can everyone hear me? Because of the gap from the internet. John, can you hear me? I'm getting a little bit of a lag.
Loud and clear, yep.
Perfect. So, thank you, Mr. Zhang. So, once again, thank you to everybody for joining us. I don't know how much of that speech I need to go over again, but thank you. And I want to thank our contributors and our sponsors for being highly generous. Advent Academy, thank you very much for your constant support for Dominion Mock Trial and this Varsity Cup. Evocation Academy. And now, the guest of honor, our main speaker here today, who has taken a tremendous amount of their schedule to come join us, Mr. Gary Anandasangaree. Thank you very much for joining us. As we speak, they are busy in Parliament passing bills. So we really commend them for taking their time to join us. I'll give a few brief comments about Mr. Anandasangaree, Member of Parliament for Scarborough Rouge Park and Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Justice and the Attorney General of Canada. Mr. Anandasangaree is an internationally recognized human rights lawyer and a community activist who has advocated tirelessly for education and social justice. Now, prior to entering politics, Mr. Anandasangaree attended Osgoode Hall Law School, my alma mater as well, and for many in the room here today, and went on to manage his own firm in Scarborough. He has been a passionate advocate for human rights issues and regularly representing the Lawyers' Rights Watch Canada at the United Nations Human Rights Council. He has served as a very strong advocate for local youth, intervening in cases of wrongful student expulsion and suspension. Mr. Anandasangaree has demonstrated leadership at a number of organizations aimed at supporting communities locally and nationwide. As an active and engaged member of his community, Mr. Anandasangaree has served as chair of the Canadian Tamil Youth Development Center, president of the Canadian Tamils Chamber of Commerce, board member of the Youth Challenge Fund, member of the Toronto Police Chiefs Advisory Council, and member of the United Way Newcomers Grant Program. Now, in honor of his devotion to community service and local advocacy, Mr. Anandasangaree has received both the Queen Elizabeth II Golden and Diamond Jubilee medals. They have also received the Osgoode Hall Law School's One to Watch Alumni Gold Key Award and the South Asian Bar Association of Toronto Young Practitioners Award. Now, Mr. Anandasangaree came to Canada with his mother as a refugee in 1983 and has advocated since then for the rights of refugees throughout his adult life. Now, I swear when I was younger, I saw a billboard in Markham. Now, I can't remember if I'm remembering this correctly, Mr. Anandasangaree, but if I swear it was you from your days when you were a human rights lawyer. And so if it is the case, it's amazing to finally meet that personality behind the face that I used to see. And so I welcome you on behalf of the entire organization and everyone here. And please take over.
Thank you, Sim, for those very kind comments, and John and others I was able to meet earlier, and want to shout out to my good dear friend Omar. I think you'll be speaking later on. Really miss meeting you in person, Omar, and I hope that we can do this in person in the near future. I am I may apologize ahead of time for the noise because I am in what we call the parliamentary members room, members lounge, and sometimes it gets noisy. So I do apologize ahead of time. But I do want to acknowledge that I'm speaking to you from the traditional territories, unceded territories of the Algonquin and Anishinaabe Nation. I want to extend my very warm welcome to everyone participating in the second annual Dominion Varsity Cup. It is always a privilege to speak to passionate and engaged young people who are interested in politics and the law. And it is a pleasure to join you, your presiding judge, the Honorable Marshall Rothstein, a former judge of Canada's highest court, Supreme Court of Canada. I know how much hard work goes into preparing for a moot like this, studying the case and its legal complexities, honing your skills and working on your performances. This is no small feat. When you were learning about this case, I expect that you considered some weighty issues, particularly freedom of expression and public interest. These are closely tied to my work in the government of Canada. When I was a student, I never imagined in my wildest dreams that I would one day have the honor to serve the federal government, to uphold our Constitution and the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms, and to help ensure that there is a true justice for all in our Canada. These are responsibilities that I take very seriously, and I'm so proud to be working along the Honorable David Lametti, the Minister of Justice and Attorney General for Canada. My work includes trying to uphold the ideals of this country, preserving and strengthening our democracy, our government institutions, and the rule of law, protecting human rights and promoting freedoms, equality, justice, dignity, and fairness. This must include making progress and righting past wrongs. Our country is a work in progress. Even our charter, which hits its 40th anniversary a month ago, is a living, breathing document that can change as our country evolves. This is a wonderful thing. Laws require interpretation and argument, and those laws can and should change when they need to. Convincing evidence, convincing arguments, even convincing politicians can influence these underlying structures of society. Today, I want to think about what you might have to be able to influence, the things you can do to make a difference maybe down the road in your career, or maybe right now by changing someone's mind. You're learning that words can be powerful tools to inspire and convince others. And when you can argue effectively and build consensus, you can change the world around you. And you know, when words fail us, the options are not that great. It is your duty as democratic citizens to exercise your rights and freedoms, to be allowed to challenge aspects of the law that are outdated or that need refining to make sense in a changing world, to be able to use your voices to advocate for others so that all people in Canada have full and equal access to justice. Right now in Canada, there's an urgent need to address many longstanding issues in our society. We need to take a strong stand against racism and discrimination, to fight against inequality and injustice, to change the colonial laws and policies that continue to have a negative impact on Indigenous peoples today. The Department of Justice is working on policies and programs to help make a difference. And we are introducing bills that, if passed, would reform our laws and strengthen our society. These bills must be very carefully drafted to be clear in both official languages and to accomplish exactly what they are meant to do without having unintended consequences. They must be studied and debated as they move through the House of Commons and the Senate before they receive royal assent. This means that we need to be good at listening to others, understanding and responding to conflicting viewpoints, and explaining ourselves clearly so that we too can be understood. This Moot Cup is an excellent opportunity to practice all of these skills. One key example of this work in action in the Government of Canada's commitment to advance reconciliation with Indigenous peoples. This country is grappling with some dark and significant historic wrongs, specifically those that have targeted Indigenous peoples across Canada for more than 150 years. These harms are deeply rooted and traumatic. They require strong commitments and unrelenting efforts to dismantle the racist and discriminatory policies, laws, and institutions that still exist today. One critical piece is ensuring that the effective implementation of the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples Act. This is about upholding human rights, affirming self-determination, closing socioeconomic gaps, combating discrimination, and eliminating systemic barriers and racism that First Nations, Inuit, and Métis have faced for far too long. To be truly effective, this work must be done in consultation and cooperation with Indigenous peoples. This is what we're doing now. This is just one example of how important it is to listen and really listen. It is only when we truly understand that we can make meaningful action. Today, you'll be representing a specific point of view. This is a chance to put yourself in someone else's shoes, to understand, to give, and take of legal argument, the importance of talking to people who have different points of view. In this type of work, if this type of work inspires you, I encourage you to consider law school in the future and make a difference in the lives of people in this country. Our country needs passionate and capable advocates and judges with diverse experiences and backgrounds and open minds. You might also consider a career in the public service, even maybe in the Department of Justice, to help us continue to advance the true ideals of our democracy. I know that the skills you're developing through the moot will serve you well in your future endeavors, whether in the courtroom, on the bench, or say a cabinet meeting. Let me leave you with this thought. Your generation is living in a moment of incredible and rapid change. We cannot predict the future, but one thing is certain. This moment of transformation will shape and influence your ideas of the world. You will face some interesting challenges in your mood today and in the years to come. I hope you apply the skills you gain to help build a better world, one that is fair, accessible, truly just for everyone. Thank you. Merci, Miigwech.
Thank you very much, Mr. Anandasangaree. Beautifully put. Sir, would you have some time to join us for a few question and answers?
Of course.
Thank you very much. I'll open it up to the floor now. Does anyone have any questions here? Please take advantage of this rare opportunity. I mean, Mr. Anandasangaree, I have a question. You have clearly a very unique lived experience coming to this country in the circumstances that you did with your family. And you went on to become a legal advocate who fought for the rights, human rights in many different capacities. And refugee law was one of the matters where you were focused on in terms of your advocacy. Please tell us how your personal motivations influence your career trajectory to a group of youth who here today may have also their own personal motivation and circumstances and may see the law as more than simply a career, maybe a calling to a degree. So please.
Thanks, and please call me Gary. I'll tell you, like, our life, in whatever we do and however we, whatever experience we have growing up, maybe being displaced, maybe being in a situation where there may be family breakups, or anything that happens to us that is adverse and that may be different from what may be considered to be the norm, influences us and motivates us, and we can use that in so many ways, right? So many people go into law school with a singular purpose of helping improve the criminal justice system or to do advocacy. I have a really good friend whose work is around disability law, and he went into that because one of his siblings had severe disabilities, and in my life I found that the fire in your belly, as they say, comes in when there is something so fundamental at stake for you personally, on the principle that you're working on. So for me, education is central to my life. It's been central to what I think is a very important answer to many of the inequities that exist in society. So one of the things that I did right out of law school is work on cases of expulsions and suspensions. So young people getting kicked out of school, oftentimes racialized, oftentimes, over very frivolous things. But the school system often takes a very blunt response to small incidents. So it was an area that I think I really spent a lot of time in, a lot of advocacy, a lot of success But ultimately, what I saw was a lot of young people were able to come out, get their life together and have become incredible citizens. So that's the type of inspiration that I had. And when we are inspired to work, we do work better, right? And like being a member of parliament, each and every day you wake up thinking, okay, what is going to happen today? How are we going to change the world? And not every day is a great day, but every day is a really good day, because you are at the table where actual decisions are made. Many of these decisions are tough. History will tell us if we were right or if we were wrong, but it is that experience that we all carry with us, and all of you in your own ways have that experience. And when you get to the point where you go to law school, finish law school, or if you pursue another career, you'll be driven by all the things that have happened to you. The pandemic for your generation is going to be so profound. That's going to impact many of the decisions you make in the future, and in many ways you will look at life through that lens of those two years and a bit where you were in many ways displaced from regular life.
Thank you for those wise words of advice, sir. I again open the floor up. I got plenty of questions, so if you guys don't jump in, I can keep shooting these off. So I highly recommend. Well, one thing.
There's a question here, Sam. It says from Yosheng, I think. So it says, if you don't mind me asking, what committees are you currently working in, and does that have any effect on how you seek to create change? And that's a great question. So the two committees that I am part of, and just for people, we have what's called standing committees to Parliament, and I have, I'm on the Justice and Human Rights Committee, because my role as Parliamentary Secretary means I support the committee, especially as a representative of the government. And there we study very important legislation. So right now we just completed a study on changes to mandatory minimum sentences, or C5. We just did an amendment to the Judges Act that passed yesterday. We have a study on sex workers that we will be completing over the next several weeks, and when we have other studies that are in the pipeline. So that's critical work, because these studies and expert witnesses, oftentimes the reports that are created by committee will inform the decisions of government going forward, whether it's new bills, amendments to old bills, funding, regulatory changes. It's oftentimes informed by committee work. The second committee I'm on is called Medical Assistance in Dying. So as you know, end-of-life decisions are critical for Canadians, and we brought forward a bill in 2017 that initially set up the framework for people whose end-of-life options were given to them if they had a irredeemable, if they were in the last stage of their life and there's no way for them to be cured. That was strengthened by Bill C7 last year, and now we're reviewing that legislation to see what more we need to do, if there's any additional safeguards we need to put in. So that's something that we're doing, and hopefully we'll be reporting by October 17th on that issue. So that's the committee work that I do. So thank you for the question. And I think there's another one there. So Sim, I don't know if you want to look at the other question.
Of course. My internet, as you know, Gary, this is the situation in the north. I'll put it to you now. We need better internet connections. But what do you just? I believe it's a. I don't know if you answered this, Gary. What do you suggest high schoolers like us do to become advocates such as yourself?
Look, I think it's a great question. So it's basically saying, how do you advocate? What do you need to do to be a good advocate? And I think it's a very wide-ranging question. I don't think you wake up and say, I'm going to advocate. I think what happens often is that, things kind of fall to you. So if you are in a park, if your park is being shut down, or if you're losing your playground, or if you see something happening in your community that you don't like, whether it's a new, you know, new building construction, you become advocates, and you start influencing people, decision makers, your community, local community, your parents, to say, this is wrong, or this is something that you want to do. And to me, I think the most powerful advocacy I've seen in my life is the creation of the Rouge National Urban Park. So as you know, we have a park that's 79.1 square kilometers. It starts at the mouth of the Rouge by Rouge Beach and goes up to Uxbridge. And it is the largest urban park, in fact, the only urban park in Canada, and one of the largest in the world. And it is now a model for other urban parks. But the painful history of almost 40 years is of advocates who were just ordinary folks. These are people who, just went to work, came home, wrote petitions. Some of them, when development was going to take place, they stood in front of a bulldozer and said, "You're not going to build a structure here because ecologically this space is so important to us." And they just never gave up, and they still haven't given up. But that resulted in an urban park being built, in the one of the most densely populated cities in all of the world, in 2015. So I think you can start anywhere, but understand that whatever you start, it oftentimes goes into something way bigger than any one of us. Um, so in your case, I think you need to start with your local community and start with the local issues that matter to you, and then work on them. Advocate, never give up, just be persistent, just be consistent, and at some point, you will reach your destination, whether that's advocating for international human rights, if it's advocating for changing the name of Dundas Street, or the name of Ryerson University, or building a national park that's of international stature. You will really be able to succeed. So I wish you the best, whatever area you want to advocate in. Just start small and just build your way up.
I think, Gary, one thing that you really touched on here, which I think is really important for the youth, is, through your own life experience, you were a lawyer, an advocate professionally, and then you went on to become a member of parliament. And then as a politician, you've had different aspects to your career as well, from MP to parliamentary secretary to the justice minister. There's a fluidity and a dynamic nature to that. And I think if I had to ask you a question, when you're speaking to the youth now, we never really know where our future is going to take us, do we? I mean, with COVID, look, no one could have anticipated the current situation. And especially I agree with you, I believe we live in dynamic times. And so what advice would you have? And you've mentioned this, that one of the most powerful pieces of advocacy that you saw wasn't necessarily from lawyers. So although these children here are learning skills that can benefit career in law, what advice would you give if their path takes them on a different destination, and just general advice on the dynamic nature of growing up and just kind of finding yourself in this world?
Look, I think being, the House of Commons is called the House of Commons because it represents everyone. So you have 330 members of parliament who come from all walks of life. So you can walk into the room and you will find the first Canadian astronaut. You will find, athletes who won gold medals representing Canada. You will find farmers. You'll find refugees. You'll find, women who started women's shelters. You'll find people who worked in the front line of mental health advocacy, or mental health supports. You'll find doctors. You'll find, people who worked on factory floors. So it really is a reflection of the country, and it doesn't really matter where you start. It doesn't matter what you do in your career or your work. There's people here. We need everyone, and that's why there is no conventional path. I don't think there is a conventional path for you to follow. I think it's just open-ended. Just work as hard as you can in the work you do, Um, just be connected to your community. Just make sure you become a voice for the community, and then if you do want to run one day and be a voice at the table, then I think that would that would be absolutely wonderful, because that's what we need in the world today. We need more people to be able to advocate, and we need more people at the table that represent the spectrum of Canada.
Now, Gary, we're very mindful that you have a very busy schedule. I just want to ensure that we're not taking too much of your time here.
Yeah, I think there's a vote taking place right in a couple of minutes. So I think but there is one question here that I think I should, it's this from Annie. It says, what motivation do you continue to doing politics? I have this image that politics moves slowly and is inhibited by lobbyists and bureaucracy. Is that true? And if so, how do you stay motivated in the face of it? Bureaucracy is complicated. I think we are surrounded by bureaucracy, and oftentimes it may seem like it takes forever to move something, but when you're in government, you are still in government, so you do have the power to be able to move things. It may not be overnight, but they do move. And when a government makes a decision, it looks at all the different aspects of an issue. As I said earlier, all issues are complex. Nothing is just black and white. They're all different strands of gray, and we have to maneuver it. For every person that supports it, there's probably 3 different perspectives that oppose it, or vice versa, and we have to make sure that we accommodate and listen to every perspective. The second part about lobbyists, I think that's a bit more of a cynical view, and yes, there are lobbyists here, but the lobbyists do not really influence the work we do. Communities influence the work we do. When people, doesn't matter how many lobbyists, how well paid they are, they come into my office, I still look at them as a lobbyist. When I have someone who has been affected by Canadian mines in Guatemala, and they come and speak to me and present their case, that's a real story for me to take away. It's not coming from a lobbyist. That's the real life experience. So I think we can really rise above it, and Canada is not as influenced by lobbyists as it is in places like the US. And I guess my message to do is be hopeful, be positive. Our system of government, still on the worst day, it's far better than many governments out there, especially to the south. You don't need to get involved or run for politics. You can always work as staff. You can work in the bureaucracy. You can work as a lawyer. You can work as whatever field that you want to pursue, but you can work with the government to advance your goals.
Well, Gary, thank you very much. Especially, I think you have a vote coming up in seconds. We really appreciate you taking out your time to join us and to educate the youth and give your vision and perspective to them and your words of advice. Gary, thank you. I'll turn it over to John. John, you're muted.
You'd think after like all these years, I'd remember to hit that button or at least check it before I talk, but so often. Thank you so much again for joining us today, Gary. It was a really awesome talk, and I honestly just feel like so inspired and passionate about like going out and doing some stuff now. So yeah, thank you so much for joining us. And yeah, thank you, Sim, for hosting. That was awesome. Yeah, Sim and I go way back in law school. He's probably one of my closest friends that I made during my time at Osgood, and one of the most positive, energetic people I've ever met. So yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, before we move on to the sort of second half of today, we're just going to take a quick break for everyone to go and grab a drink, go use the washroom, freshen up. And then we will be regrouping at 7:40. So we'll be regrouping then. We got a few more things planned for the night. So please go take a break, and we will be right back. See y'all soon. Hi, everybody. Yeah, so super excited to have you all back and hope you enjoyed your break. We're going to be resuming our programming now. So welcome everybody to the 2022 Varsity Cup. I'm super excited to have you all here again for this competition. For those of you who haven't met me, my name is John. I'm the founder of Dominion Mock Trial, and yeah, it's been honestly one of the best experiences of my life getting to work with all these amazing people who have come and rallied to help support the organization and the mission, and to interact with so many bright young students who are passionate about the same things I am passionate about. That being law, that being advocacy, that being the unending fight for justice. And that is truly what exemplifies this meeting here today. We are gathered in order to celebrate the law, celebrate the art of legal advocacy, and to explore some really cutting edge issues in terms of what we should do in situations where there's a very high level of complexity and varying viewpoints. So before we jump into the portion of the competition, we are first going to celebrate two individuals who have made a massive impact on our organization in the last 2 years. So today we are really excited to present, for the first time ever, our Dominion Awards for Outstanding Achievement. It's something that we have been planning for quite a while now, and we are really excited to get the opportunity to do this today. So these awards are given to individuals who have contributed to Dominion in a highly meaningful way over the course of our organization's history. They have held, to this point, no official roles within the organization. They have put in time, they have put in effort, and taken so much care in the way they have contributed to this project. And, in the spirit of volunteering, they have really outdone themselves. So the first award, which I'm really excited to announce today, will be presented to Mr. Omar Ha Redeye. So Omar is a good friend of mine who I've known for many years now. We've crossed paths quite frequently over the last number of years. And every single time, it's always just such a pleasure to see him. One of the moments that I think really impacted me about Omar was, and this was a while back, there was a debate that was being held at Osgood over the statement of principles from the Law Society. And it was basically a statement where lawyers had to affirm that they were going to work towards equality and fairness and the principles of diversity, which are all things, as some argued, which fall within the scope of the Constitution. At the time, there was quite a intense debate around it. And I'll never forget that time when Omar showed up as one of the representatives fighting for the principles. And he delivered a magnificent display of advocacy. He was calm, he was logical, he was able to have complete control over the situation, and he was very persuasive, to say the least. Over the last bit, Omar has judged for more Dominion events than any judge so far. He has consistently shown up to help support the students, and even outside of Dominion, he does a ton in terms of other competitions held across this country. Honestly, sometimes it still boggles my mind how much. So with that, I would like to invite Omar to present the award and give a few words for our students.
Thank you, John. It really is an honor and a pleasure to receive this award. And I will take a few moments to speak about the award, what it means for me, and also I think what Dominion Cup means in the varsity moot, and why it's so important and significant that all of you are here today. So I'm coming to you speaking from the Treaty 13 lands, and Gary did a wonderful job of explaining and emphasizing the need and the importance of Indigenous reconciliation. But this is new. Although everywhere we go, we hear these land acknowledgement statements, it wasn't that long ago in Canada that something like that would be foreign or unusual in some way. And so the reason why I point to that is because the law is important. The law informs our social fabric. It helps us identify who we are, and more importantly, who we want to be. And these land acknowledgements and the Truth Reconciliation Commission itself came about because of litigation by Indigenous people against the state of Canada. And so we are seeing the effects of that litigation in our everyday business, in our everyday lives, and hopefully it will change who we are as Canadians and what it means to have a relationship with Indigenous people here in these shores. I think this is really why my passion for judging moots and participating in these types of events comes into play, is because when I was in high school, and I went to high school in Scarborough, so I'm very familiar with the communities that Gary represents, I never had that opportunity to have any exposure to the law. And I think that that's unfortunate. I think some of that has changed. There are more and more of those opportunities, but that early exposure to the law and understanding not only what it means to be a Canadian, but also how we perhaps redefine our relationships and our identities as Canadians would have had a very important and significant impact on my life if I had been introduced to it at an earlier stage. Fortunately, I did come across law eventually after several other careers and other degrees. And I can say that it is an incredible, incredible career. It's an incredible profession, and it's a community. And that's where people like John and others who we work with are friends and colleagues, because we are working towards this collective goal of making for a better society. And a significant part of that is encouraging not just future lawyers, but all Canadians to also think about our legal system. And I think that's where this particular competition of the Varsity Cup is of such significant importance, because it's focusing on high school students who may never pursue a legal education, and that's okay. We hope, of course, that many of you do. You consider becoming a lawyer and maybe consider it at an earlier stage than you otherwise would have. But if you don't, what the hope is that you have a greater insight, a greater interest, and a greater affinity, perhaps, to the legal system and the Constitution and the principles that keep our social fabric together. And in doing that, the hope is that you'll be better citizens. So I'll say thanks again to John and to Sim and to everybody on the Dominion Cup team for this award. It really is an honor and a pleasure, and I do hope to see all of you in person at some point in the future down the road.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Omar. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, and now brings us to the second award, which we're going to be presenting tonight. So yeah, it's with a great pleasure that I will be introducing my friend Anandasangaree, otherwise known as Yanni. Yeah.
How's it going, everyone?
Let me turn the background off. Yeah. So actually, you know what? Yeah, I think it's good. Yeah, good enough. I'll be stepping out in just a moment. But yeah, I met Yanni back when we were in law school together, and we just ended up hanging out a lot. We're both super into like TV shows and movies and stuff like that. And, we just started just watching a whole bunch of really cool shows. So Yanni is a criminal defense lawyer over at What the Law. It's a criminal firm that does work all over Ontario. Like, it's honestly pretty crazy, just the sheer scope of how far a geographical range the firm works in. And he is a criminal defense lawyer because he is someone who really cares about advocacy. Over the course of this past year, Yanni was our case architect, a position where he helped to put together this year's mock trial case, RV James. And this is a case that some of you may have worked on in the past. It was used for 2 competitions in this season. The first one being the Champions Cup in 2021, back in November. This was the high school mock trial competition, as well as the College Cup, which happened in February earlier this year. It was a thrilling case, and Yanni did a fantastic job directing a small team of law students, along with high school students, to put together this really, really solid case. So to that end, I'm super proud to present Yanni with.
Thank you, John. It was an absolute pleasure when you came to me and presented that with an opportunity to develop a case that's going to be mooted. With Dominion, it's been a great pleasure working with Dominion and with you and all the staff there. I think also your vision of bringing and teaching high school students the law is something that I wish was a part of me when I had the chance when I was younger. And I think that was a very great idea and opportunity, and you getting involved in this way is amazing. You know, what brought me into law, I knew I was going to become a criminal defense lawyer from the second I went into law school. Is the whole reason why I became a lawyer. And you know, it's taught me a lot about advocacy and you know, advocating for your clients and not being judgmental, and you know, understanding and humanizing individuals that are in, you know, difficult situations that you know, sometimes as a result of the circumstances, their you know, their life situation has led them into getting involved with the criminal justice system. What you learn about people out there is that, you know, just because you are involved in the criminal justice system doesn't make you a bad person. And that is something that teaches a lot of humility for me, at least. And I think that the skills that you get by engaging in advocacy work and engaging in these moots and competitions at especially such a young age is going to set you up in whatever area you want to do, whether that's law or just in being business minded and just having logical thinking. And so the skills that you learn at such a young age is going to be very helpful in the future. And I'm glad that I had the opportunity to share and help you guys develop some of those skills by engaging in this type of competition and learning about how to cross-examine and learning about, you know, thinking outside of the box and really advocating for your client and you know, what you truly believe in. And so, John, I really do, and I appreciate everything and having the opportunity. And
Dude, it's a pleasure.
I'm glad, and you know, I'd really if anything in the future, let me know, and I'll be there. And thanks everyone for letting me speak. You have a great day.
Yeah, thank you so much, Yanni. And yeah, Yanni is currently in the process of setting up next year's case architect, so that you know, yeah, we have something really exciting coming up soon, which we're hopefully going to announce. And with that, yeah, we'll conclude our award ceremony. So in terms of the breakdown of the rest of today, there's going to be really one more thing, and that is the Dominion Social for all the competitors who are here today. So, you know, this is a quick opportunity for you to meet a couple of the people who are going to be going through this amazing experience with you. And I know that there is a lot of Zoom fatigue and people feel a little bit tired. But that being said, you know, we felt like it would be remiss if we didn't give you all the opportunity to just go out there and, you know, share and bond over some experiences. It'd be really kind of a waste of this amazing opportunity for which we are gathered today. So to that end, there's going to be some instructions. So please do your best to follow them. So if everyone could change their names within this Zoom call, And you can change your name to the exact following. So let's just say my name is John Wu, and I'm a student. I would put an S. And by student, we mean a student who will be competing in this event. For those who are serving as a judge, please put the letter J. So if I was judging today and I was going to be volunteering at this upcoming event, I would put a J. And then last but not least, for individuals who are here today to just spectate and watch, please put a G into your name. So for all the guests that we have with us today. Fantastic. Okay, so in a moment, I'm going to create breakout rooms, and then you will be placed into a random breakout room with hopefully some people who you haven't met before. And yeah, you'll get a brief opportunity to socialize with the other competitors. Judges, we are going to be doing a very brief session on judging for those volunteer for the first time. I think you'll find it very, very helpful. And then last but not least, guests, yeah, you'll also be sort of free to mingle and socialize with others who are here watching with us today. So as for